So, as you guys know by now, I'm a total peanut head classic WoW Andy. Believe it or not, I actually enjoy walking to dungeons instead of being teleported there. Yeah, I know I probably need to see a psychotherapist by now. So I reckon it'll be hilarious if I subjected my peanut brain to the wonderful world of other MMOs, a concept absolutely terrifying to every single World of Warcraft player. But there are so many unique and interesting MMOs out there with features and concepts that many classic WoW Andies and most WoW players, to be honest, are completely oblivious to, because we're all just so used to that World of Warcraft template. So let's embark on a journey together to find an MMO that can satisfy the peculiar specimen that is the classic WoW Andy brain. I decided to kick off this experiment with an MMO set within the universe of my favourite game of all time, The Elder Scrolls IV Oblivion. Naturally, I'm talking about ESO, The Elder Scrolls Online. What a better place to start than their new expansion set in my favourite Cyrodiil city, Skingrad. We will cover topics from my first impressions of playing the game for a good 10 hours. The new player experience, the leveling experience, class design and combat, and lastly we'll talk about the group content. And honestly, I've enjoyed playing ESO so much that I'm going to do a deeper dive video and give this game a full 30 to 50 hours and do another review in the future. So please do me an absolute solid and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss that video in the future.
Stand up. There you go.
I've seen you.
So the new player experience is very important for an MMO. Some players can even give up on a game after 30 minutes. But I don't think many people will with ESO. We have the character creation screen. It's one of the most detailed and diverse I've ever seen. You can adjust your character's body shape to better represent how you're just built different and big boned.
I'm big boned.
You can get loads of funky tattoos and even go for the I sat on a sunbed for too long look. But alas, as MMO reviewer person tradition dictates, you have to make your character look as ridiculous as possible. So I'll present to you my high elf, pregnant, 90-year-old male who sat on a sunbed for too long. Entering the game, our character is, as usual, in a prison cell. This is a classic start for Elder Scrolls games. What immediately impressed me were the immersive, Oblivion-style dialogue windows. I've always preferred these over Skyrim's approach because they give you a more intimate experience with the NPCs. Maybe I like it because the closest thing I've ever had to female companionship is ERPing in Goldshire.
You want to see my candy cane?
A surprising thing was that despite being a sorcerer, I could pick up any weapon I wanted in the tutorial, because in ESO you can just use any weapon with any class and any build that you want. If you want to be a sword and board sorcerer who also summons demons, you can. I love how in previous Elder Scrolls games there are no limitations on what weapon types, spells and skills that you can combine. The combat tutorial is short and sweet, but it does the job at teaching you the game's playstyle, which is very different to the tab targeting style of WoW. Firstly, you have to actually target spells and ranged weapons, and technically melee weapons too, but if you can't hit a mob with a sword in melee range, you probably shouldn't be playing video games. You can also dodge and block, and there's the option to do light or heavy attacks. I love how the combat is a combination of Skyrim, Dark Souls, and adapted into an MMO format. To get a taste of what's to come with ESO's quest design, we're presented with problems and mysteries that we need to go and solve. I'm yet to discover a quest that tells you to go and grind 50 mobs or pick up this grape 20 times from the floor. Bethesda really made an effort to actually make the questing interesting, rather than just a boring grind, and it makes sense. The quests in Skyrim, Oblivion, and any other single-player RPG really, are usually fun and interesting. They simply just work.
All of this just works. It's not, I'm not kidding.
So why not have these kinds of quests in an MMO? Could you imagine telling a non-MMO player to go and kill 50 boars? When you've smashed the tutorial, you enter this huge portal room where you can literally pick any piece of content, any quest hub from the base game or expansions to go and explore, no matter what your level is. Let's say you want to explore Western Skyrim to investigate the rise of a powerful vampire lord, where you can go and check out the Greymore DLC content, or maybe you want to return to Morrowind or join the Dark Brotherhood, where you can literally pick anything you want, and ESO has been out for quite a while, so there's so much content now to stick your teeth into. And if you buy the latest expansion, the Gold Road, then you get to unlock all of this content. You don't have to buy every single expansion individually like you had to way back in the day with MMOs. I decided I wanted the Oblivion vibe, so I took a portal to the West Weald of Skingrad. Right away I was greeted with an amazing cinematic that sets the scene for the zone, and I'm already hooked, eager to find out what on earth is going on. Our objective is to investigate an abandoned estate where an entire legion has mysteriously disappeared. So it's time to channel our inner Inspector Gadget and search for Manor House for clues, kill some spiders in his garden, and conclude this first chapter by exploring an undercroft full of undead and evil mages. I obviously won't spoil the story, but I'm seriously impressed at just how good the questing works in this game. The pacing and the flow of quests, along with all the information they provide at just the right times, keeps you on the edge of your seat, yearning to dive deeper into these plot lines. 10 hours in, I actually haven't still completed this questline, as most quests in the game are very long, are very story focused, and are very reminiscent of Vanilla WoW's old questlines actually, which I've always loved. Along the way, you're bound to get totally sidetracked by mysterious side quests from NPCs in need, a dusty journal found in a dark cave. This is generally the first MMO I've played where I actually want to do the questing content just to experience the storylines and exploration even after I've hit max level. The gameplay is very much like Skyrim and Oblivion. I love how ESO understands its core audience and what they want from an Elder Scrolls game, and translating that into an MMO. There are MMOs out there that have evolved from single player RPGs but stuck to the typical grindy MMO template. ESO, however, has really tried something unique with its leveling design, and it baffles me as to why MMOs haven't adapted more of this approach, because it makes perfect sense. Immerse your players with intriguing storylines just like any other RPG, rather than giving them a shopping list of tasks. Some may argue that ESO feels too much like a single player game, when it's supposed to be an MMO, but that's where it shines. ESO is a single player RPG when it should be, and an MMO when it should be. When you start a new zone, you'll follow these single player storylines, but you'll naturally encounter many multiplayer situations. This usually happens in the form of public dungeons or world events. Now, I'm a massive fan of public dungeons, particularly after trying out EverQuest. You may not understand it, but it's a very simple concept. You enter an instance dungeon, like Deadmines for instance in World of Warcraft, but you then share that world with all the other players on your server. I guess the World of Warcraft equivalent would be the elite open world zones like Pywood Village, Dungar Rock, or the Stonewatch Keep Elite quests in Redridge. I still don't understand why they remove these in the Burning Crusade. This is golden MMO content. The unique selling point of an MMO is running into other real players in the game. You don't get that in a typical dungeon run like Deadmines. Don't get me wrong, I love a good dungeon run, and ESO has those too, but public dungeons and elite areas just hit differently. In the West Weald they are often alien ruins like those in Oblivion, which is an added bonus for me for the nostalgia. Now, soloing these instances is possible, but it is challenging, especially the bosses. So you are encouraged to find groups for these dungeons. Normally that's pretty easy to achieve, because in these public dungeons you always find people running around thanks to ESO's mega server technology. But don't worry, it's laid, so you don't have like 2,000 people trying to loot the same chest all at once. I generally do love this mix of story-focused solo content working in synergy with challenging group content. While running to your next quest, you're very likely to encounter world events, whether they're invasion-styled or a big world boss you need to go and kill. These dynamic events provide a nice break from the questing. The key element really that makes ESO's leveling so fun, and why I'm fundamentally very addicted to it, is the variety of activities that you can participate in. It also provides loot to progress your character, which is always satisfying. I love how many items and containers you can also see in the game, and they can just be picked up or interacted with, just like the other Elder Scrolls games.
Welcome to the arena!
Now, combat is often the make or break factor for many MMO players. A game can have an amazing story, tons of content, and a breathtaking open world, but if a combat system is lackluster, players will quickly lose interest. Luckily, ESO doesn't suffer from this problem at all. I actually think they've really pushed the boat out there in modernising and doing something very, very interesting with the combat. Not only can you mix and match different playstyles and choose any weapon you want, but the abilities are also very fun to use. They synergize with each other, allowing you to devise strategies and combos that keep the gameplay engaging and dynamic. Someone who's spent, countless hours playing traditional MMOs, ESO's combat feels very refreshingly unique. Gone are the days of tab targeting. Here you need to manually aim your spells and attacks like I mentioned before. This skill-based system combines the best elements of Skyrim's combat with classic MMO mechanics. A bit of a shooting game too, a blend that can keep you entertained for hours on end, and let's be honest, that's quite important because we all probably spend more time on MMOs than we do our social lives and personal hygiene. In ESO, you also have the ability to dodge, which is crucial to evading frequent and complex boss mechanics. In fact, some quest hobs in this game, quest hobs, don't know what that is, that's the creature from Fable, quest mobs have more mechanics than raid bosses in other MMOs. The fast-paced, action-orientated combat feels more like a thrilling action game than the slow, methodical combat style of old MMOs. If you're tired of that traditional MMO combat, ESO will be a breath of fresh air. One of the standout features of ESO is its approach to skill progression. Much like Skyrim, you level up your skills separately from your character's level. As your skills improve, they can become more powerful and you can morph abilities into new enhanced versions. For example, my summon creature spell has evolved from summoning a small imp into a formidable clanfear. While there are talent points to assign, they go into your weapon, armor, and even racial skills. ESO is the first MMO where I've seen you can upgrade and enhance your racial abilities, adding an extra layer of strategy to your class and race choices. It also has multiple ultimate abilities, including unique ones for PvP, providing endless customization options. There's even ones unique to every single different weapon again that you can again combine with any single spell school that you want. It's going to be difficult to find two players playing the exact same kind of class.
Lead the way.
One of the most surprising aspects of ESO is how it handles group content. The game scales to the player, meaning you can tackle any quest hub, zone, or dungeon at any level. This ensures that you never fall behind or get ahead of your friends. Plus, because low-level content is always relevant to higher-level characters, it's easy to find groups for any activity. I had never waited more than once in 3 minutes for the dungeon finder, even during off-peak hours. Another bonus is how there's no extra separate fee or subscription if you want to play on EU or US servers. You just have to create a new character. The most intriguing thing about the dungeons in this game is how they don't follow the typical routine of clearing trash mobs and fighting bosses. Instead, they often have unique objectives to complete alongside the boss fights, creating more an engaging and immersive experience. Each dungeon tells you its own story and sets a distinct atmosphere, and there's so many available. I've yet to encounter the same one twice. I think the most fun I've had with the group content has to be with the battlegrounds. There's this mode similar to Oddball from old school Halo days, where you have to chase down the enemy team with your team to steal this thing called a Chaos Orb, to hold it as long as you can, but rather irritatingly, it continuously deals AoE damage to you and your team, so it's definitely very challenging to stay alive. ESO really does offer a limitless, unrestricted gameplay experience. There's no fun policing and forcing you to play the game in a certain way. You literally just plug and play. You dive in, you have fun, and you level up, and you can do whatever the hell you want. And reaching max level isn't a grueling process. Since ESO's launch, the level cap hasn't actually been increased. Still really doesn't take that long to get caught up with all the other endgame players, although at level 50 you still can progress your character's power in various different ways. It also seems like ESO has a gigantic array of cosmetic systems in the game for the players who love that kind of thing, which is definitely me to be honest. From changing your appearances, your armor, pets, mounts, and totally customizable player housing. In the future I shall review the remaining content systems that I've not had the chance to experience and what the game has to offer, as I do plan to get to max level in this game and really get a thorough experience of the game. Before I head off guys, I'd like to thank Bethesda for gifting me the game and sponsoring this video, as opportunities like this really do help me continuing to do YouTube full time. But anyway guys, stay tuned for that follow-up deep dive review video of this game where I will not hold anything back. My name is Metagoblin, and in my next video, ciao.